The A-series electrical system on the A7s, A8s, and A9s, they are a CANBUS setup, or CANBUS system, I should say. CANBUS is communications. Therefore, the console and the controller, they're not hardwired all the way through. We have two communication lines, two inside the console and two inside the control box that they communicate and make sure the operations are working properly throughout the electrical system. We're going to go and talk a little bit about all that more in detail. Now, what we have here, of course, we have the console. This is a Tier 4 final console. However, we do have a console for the 2023 models that is different with a bigger screen, and that will be demonstrated here shortly. Now, as you can see here, anytime that you have the engine ignition for the chassis activated, you have blue lights that they show up on the top of the console. At the same time, inside the control box, on each side of the controller, we have two blue flashing lights that they flash at 2 Hz each. Okay, that tells you that the communication between the controller and the console is correct. Now, at the same time, inside your control box, we do have two fuse boxes that they control different functions of the sweeper itself. Those functions, of course, that have different size of fuses, and of course the relays that they are between the fuses, and of course the power of the function itself. Now, the relays themselves are actually the same. So therefore, if you have a problem at some point or time, and you do have power on the fuse, but you don't have power coming out of the fuse box to the function, it is a possibility it might be one of the relays. So therefore, you can actually swap with another of the relays, and that would be your troubleshooting tool as far as that goes. Now, as I said, of course, there are two communication lines, and they are here. One is the J1939, and the other one is the CAN open. Now, those two communication lines, they have two terminating resistors in the end of it. Okay? The same two communication lines, they are located inside the console, and I will demonstrate here in just a minute. Now, what we have here, of course, they are actually six Deutsch connectors that they represent different functions or different harnesses that they go throughout the sweeper itself. Okay, now all of these, they're actually labeled, as you can see right here. Okay, what we have here, it is, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those are the 6 different harnesses that go from the controller all the way to the back in different places of the sweeper itself. Of course, as I said before, even though you can see there's a lot of same color wires, every wire is laser labeled, and of course it has the function label on it. So you don't have to look at a schematic or any kind of list to find out what that represents. It actually tells you what the function is. Now, going back to the communication lines. A lot of times, of course, it is a possibility that on the screen you're going to see a communication issue or a communication error or something that have to do with the communication. Now, at that point, all you have to do is come here and take the terminating resistor out on the communication line, and you should have at that point 120 ohms. Now you can plug that up, open this one up, ohm it, 120 ohms. Now at that point, all you have to do is open up the console, find the two communication lines inside the console, and do the same thing inside the console. You should have 120 ohms in each one of the communication lines inside the console. Now, it is a possibility you may have 121 or maybe 119, which is fine. However, if those numbers are not even close, then you have to find out where the communication break is on those lines. Now, the next thing, of course, is the switches on the top of the console. These are called switch banks. It is a possibility at some point in time you may have a switch that is going bad. Now, even though the actuator, the plastic actuator, can be replaced, you cannot replace one electrical switch. You have to replace the whole bank. So therefore, you have to unplug it on the other side and take this whole bank off and replace it with a new one. Now, always remember to replace the bank 1, 2, or 3. You cannot take this one, take the tops off, and switch it with the top one. They are programmed differently. Now, in order not to order a switch bank without having problem with the switch, and the problem may be lying someplace else, you can actually troubleshoot the switches themselves, and I will demonstrate that in just a few minutes. Now, the other thing that we see inside the control box, what we see is we have 3 continuous duty solenoids. Those continuous duty solenoids represent 2 of them, the pumps, the water pumps, and 1, the hopper shaker that is mounted underneath the hopper. Okay. The other thing, of course, that we see here is the power relay. So what we have here is we have a power wire coming straight out of the battery, going through the power isolator here. From the power isolator is going to the power relay, and from the power relay you're powering up the 2 fuse boxes. Now, from the fuse box, of course, you're getting power for the controller. Now, what happens here is anytime that you activate any one of these switches, what happens is that switch sends a command to the controller, and the controller sends a command to the function to turn on or turn off or change or whatever that is.